A trio of Sharks have been signed. We'll talk about Nick Bonino, Andrew Cogliano, and the return of Optimus Rhyme right now on Teal Town Live. Good afternoon, or well, good morning. I've been talking to Mark, so it's afternoon. Forgive me, but good morning, everyone. It is July 28th, 2021. Free agent frenzy is underway, and the Sharks have already made a dent in the free agent market. We'll talk about all that and more right now on Teal Town Live. This is your live interactive free agent frenzy show. So if you want to be part of the show, chat with us and fellow Sharks fans and hockey fans around the world on the YouTube page or on the YouTube app. And of course, follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, and of course our favorite Discord, and find everything at tealtownusa.com. Good morning, everyone. Alongside Mark Eisenberg, I am Erik Kuhre. Mark, good day, sir. How are things over in the East Coast?
They're very good. It's a very exciting morning so far. Tons of signings. I've been watching the show, obviously, on the NHL Network, following the coverage, following Twitter. So one of the more exciting days of the hockey calendar.
Yep. It's kind of like the technical first day of the new season, but in some senses it's the last day of the season we just went through, because it's like after today everything kind of calms down for a little bit. Usually, 2 months or so we get, but more so it's going to be like maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks for the development camp, and then 2 weeks after that, captain's ice, and then 2 or 3 weeks after that we're in the training camp. So it's right around the corner.
Yeah, I always feel like the draft kind of wraps up the prior season, and then free agency kind of gives everyone hope for the next season. So yeah, it should be an exciting few weeks too, like you mentioned, with that prospects camp coming up.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be fun, and with all the new blood that's been in the camp for the last couple of years, you get to see a whole bunch of talent coming in. You're going to see Ozzy Weisblatt a little bit more. You're going to see William Eklund. Obviously, our whole crew here at Teal Town USA is excited for that. And so, we'll get into it. So the Sharks kind of reacquire Nick Bonino. He was with the Minnesota Wild last year, and judging by the numbers that I looked at, with his 2-year, $2.05 million AAV mark, I mean, guys, pretty consistent with double-digit goal scoring.
Yeah, I think he's actually a great ad. One of the better third liners available in the market. Definitely a guy who can contribute offensively, but where he really, I think, gives the Sharks value is defensively and on the penalty kill. If everyone remembers last season, we know our team was not defensively responsible. It wasn't purely the goalies. And I feel like a guy like him, he's a huge addition for helping out the overall team defense despite being a forward.
Right. And that's the thing right there, is that it's just not just always the defense, but you also need that help. You always need that help with trying to getting the defensive support with the forwards as well. So it's nice to see to get him. Obviously, he'll be a big help on the PK, in my mind.
Yeah, and like you said, he could still add in the 10, 15 goals. I think he had, was it 10 goals, 20-something points last season in a shortened season. So, if he gets plenty of time with the Sharks in that third line, I could see him probably being in that range of 10, 15 goals, maybe 30-plus points. So it's not just a defensive ad. I think it's the third-line player that Doug Wilson has been talking about adding, and he kind of fits that perfectly. Might have been one of the top 2 or 3 who slots into that part of the lineup across the market. So definitely Wilson, and not only that, he got his money's worth too. What was it, only 2.25 million? 2.5?
2.05 million. So just a scotch over $2 million for Bonino, which is nice.
Yeah.
And that's going to be great depth. That's basically your third line center, and that's exactly what DW wanted to go after. So the next one that kind of was already pretty much done for, it's kind of funny, Mark, how all these deals happen, but there's no window for to negotiate any. But just like 901, Bonino gets signed 902. It's like all of a sudden, it's like the TSN sounder would go off like crazy,
Yeah,
going crazy.
I need to understand those rules a little bit better. Who can the team talk to? Can they talk to the agent? Can they send maybe an email? What are they doing here?
Like
how are they
message?
sending these messages exactly? Because these deals are known ahead of time. It doesn't take 1 minute to negotiate a deal, sign it, and get it ready to go. So there's definitely some discussions, some meetings, maybe some Zoom calls or whatever happening ahead of time.
Yeah, maybe Twitter DMs are okay, and that's how it's happening.
It could be
all on the GM's burner accounts or something. But the next one was veteran Andrew Cogliano. He gets a 1 year, $1 million deal. Again, another good depth forward that ironically enough, was also, like Patrick Marleau and Keith Yandel, on the chase to break the Ironman record, but his got ended up via suspension. But another depth pickup, a little more on the 30ish side. What do you think of Cogs?
I think it kind of follows the same mold as Bonino, but less offense, pretty much almost no offense. But he could fit in on the fourth line. I think another guy who can get some penalty killing minutes and once again tighten up the Sharks in their own zone. You can see that Wilson not just wanted to shift who his goalies were, but also support the goalies he brought in. And I think both of these moves do that. And not only that, this is a low-risk signing. It's $1 million. It's a 1-year deal.
Right.
So worst case scenario, he gets beat out by it could even be best case scenario, but he gets beat out by a rookie. And then he's just kind of a depth guy, a veteran presence in the locker room. So another good signing. I support this addition to the team.
Yeah, I mean, it's I want to say it's a logjam, but it also helps not pushing the kids to develop too quickly. I mean, we're going through a reset. We're going through a rebuild, whatever you want to call it. You don't want to rush it like I think they rushed Mirko Mueller a few years ago. And granted, we're talking forwards, not defensemen. But, I mean, you do need some veteran help, some veteran leadership, per se, to kind of help things out and bridge the gap between, not having a guy like Patrick Marleau or Joe Thornton coming back. As much as I think for the what's the word I'm looking for, the memory of the two guys and their thing, it's time to move on. And I think these signings show that that's where the depth would be in those two spots. And so I think they're good signings. They'll help the PK, which took a little step back, from the season before. But overall, I mean, how do you look at this roster right now?
I think it gives the Sharks a lot of forward depth that might have been lacking last year when they forced some young guys into the lineup. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of John Leonard, but he may have actually needed some AHL time, and you could see as the season went on, his game regressed. So he's a guy that I don't think probably will be in the starting lineup come the beginning of the season next year. I think this gives the Sharks 4 lines with skaters, defensive-minded players, as well as a few guys who can score. The fourth line, I think Gambrell, Nieto, Cogliano, which is a possible fourth line. It's not bad. I really like Nieto and Cogliano defensively there. I still think
Right.
Gambrell is not a shoo-in for that lineup, though. But as of now, he does look like, I mean, he could be the 4C. It's definitely a lineup that I think can compete for a playoff spot, but I'm still not convinced, really, that it's a playoff team.
Not
Need some
yet.
big strides.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you made some strides to get better, which is something you want to strive for. And I'm kind of with you on Leonard, and I have up right now the projected lineup that Hockey Jerk put together via Twitter, plus just chatting with him earlier, and he's kind of same with you. Leonard's not on the NHL squad. He could use some seasoning in the AHL. Can he play center though?
I don't think as an NHL player he'd be a center,
Okay.
Leonard. Yeah, I don't see that happening. In
Yeah.
college, he definitely played center at times, but in the
Right.
NHL, I just don't see him in that role.
I'm just thinking of the competition. Maybe there is one with Leonard and Gambrell
Yeah.
in there. But these forward lines: Kane, Hurdle, Barabanov, Meyer, Couture, Leonard, excuse me, Meyer, Couture, LeBanc, Jonathan Dolan getting into the lineup with Nick Bonino and Rudolph Spalsers, and then you have Cogliano, Gambrell, Nieto. I mean, those are 12 forwards that aren't too bad. Although I'm seeing in the chat, Faulty Sin out saying that still a stealth tank team for now. Um, but
I think the X factor with those lines is Barabanov and Dolan. Barabanov, if he can do what he did with his short stint with the Sharks last year, that definitely gives the Sharks a huge boost, because you have a guy who's definitely top 6 forward and contributing not maybe point per game pace, but just under. And then with Dahlin, you have a guy who is torching the second tier Swedish league and projects as a guy who's probably already an NHL player. It's just to like, what level is he an NHL player? Is he a guy who can score 15 to 20 goals, or is he a guy who's going to struggle like some of our other young forwards have?
Mm-hmm. And then on defense, Ferraro, Burns, Kinizhov, EK65, and then Shimmick and Vlasic to round up your pairings there for your 6. And of course, we're kind of getting to a spoiler here as we get to our third free agent signing, Adin Hill, who still has yet to be signed by the Sharks just yet. So hopefully, you were even mentioning it in our chat, like maybe like a 3-year or a 2-year, $2.5 million roughly range is what you're thinking.
Yeah, based on where the goalies have been going, if you look at the market, I won't spoil the third free agent signing yet, but between that guy and then Ronta in the market, it's looking like $2 to $3 million is kind of the range for a goalie who's got some experience but isn't like a proven starter. So I think that's kind of where Hill will fall in that 2.5, maybe $3 million. It really depends on the term.
Yeah, it really depends on how much he wants to stay, how much he wants, for that matter. And these Cogliano and Bonino deals are nice deals, not too bad. To eat up the cap space. Now with that you can go after a veteran goaltender, which is what Doug Wilson was saying. And well, by process of elimination and good instinct, we will turn to our friend Hockey Jerk with his predictions after Darren Drager had told us that Brossoit goes to Vegas, for 2 years, $2.325 million per, saying, that tells me James Reimer is most likely coming to San Jose. And, of course, then not too long afterwards, Jerk banging on the head when Pierre LeBrun confirms that Reimer signs with the Sharks. And, of course, he needs to make sure he gets his 14 points at 9 o'clock on the nose. So Jerk is right in that sense. Optimus Rhyme, of course, for many Sharks fans, he was the backup goaltender to Martin Jones down the stretch. And then during the 2016 Cup run, he comes back on a 2-year, $2.25 million deal. A simple signing. Again, another gap stop to see what you have in the minors with, Melnichuk or Benjamin Gaudreau in that sense. But Reimer, what do you think of Optimus Rhyme returning to Teal?
I think it's a good signing. I'm very curious what the split will be between him and Hill come next season. But I think he's a guy who gives us a veteran goalie who the franchise is familiar with, and he's been strong. He's not what I would consider your classic 1A goalie. I'm not sure if he's the kind of guy who you're going to start for 40 games in a season or 50 games in a season. But I think Hill will ultimately take that starting job, and then Reimer and him will kind of have somewhat of a 1A 1B split. But yeah, for that money, great signing. Little risk, only 2 years. And if you look at what him and Hill will be making, plus the Jones buyout, it pretty much adds up to what Jones was making. So I think Doug Wilson had an efficient use of his cap space there.
No, you use 3 players, and you're essentially for this season paying 2.25, 2.05. That's 4.3. $5 million. You still get Adin Hill signed to like probably $2 or $3 million in that range for this season. So you put that all together, you have about $4 million left in the cap space. Curious to see what if Doug Wilson does something, and even Sheng Pang just now, curiously tweeting out, something tells me the Sharks aren't done just yet. What do you think? Do they go after somebody? See if they, I don't think they're going to get too crazy with that because they don't want to, go all the way to the cap. But once Adin Hill signs, at the most, it's a $3 million deal that gets you about $4 million left in cap space. What if you're the GM? Because you have the good hair and everything like Doug Wilson does. Not as salt and pepper as he is now. I guess the Fountain of Youth isn't working for him all of a sudden the last couple of years, but unbelievable. But if you're GM, Mark, is there something out there that's affordable, like in the $3-4 million range?
I think he's actually ended up doing something that we just don't expect. There have been a lot of rumors for guys like Timo Meier, Kevin LeBanc, whether it's a trade or some sort of big move, and he has the cap space to do it. Like you mentioned, I had put a roster together earlier today on Cap Friendly, just making all the kind of moves. And as they announced guys, adding that in there, and we're at right around $4 million for a 21 player roster of free cap space. Now, if you move 1 or 2 players, you could be getting a much better piece. It depends on who those players are. So I don't know if they're going to really necessarily sign another top 6 player, for example, a top 6 forward. But I can't believe Doug Wilson's done. He's a guy who almost always lives up to what he says he's going to do. And he says the Sharks are going to compete next year. These 3 moves make us more competitive, but I don't know if it makes us a playoff team. So I still think he may end up making a move. I don't know what that would be, but I have a feeling it'll be more along the lines of a trade maybe than a signing. But they have the cap space for the signing, so we'll see.
So basically what you're saying is that we're going to trade Timo Meier and a first-round pick next year for Jack Eichel. Is that what you're getting at?
I am not getting at that. Not with what Buffalo's been asking for Jack Eichel. I don't know if the Sharks can make that move.
Yeah, no, I would. To me, it just wouldn't surprise me if Doug does something like that, where it's like, not too bad.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes, though. But again, this team is a little bit better on paper. I think Doug looked at that 6-week stretch where this team played pretty sound play. We had a 6-game winning streak in the middle of the season, and up until like a month before the season was over, they looked like they were kind of hanging in there. Yeah, they fell apart through the stretch, and they kind of, let's be honest, they kind of pointed the blame at Martin Jones on it, and the easiest way to get a move. But all in all, this isn't a cup team. It should fight to get into the playoffs. All at the same time, though, it could be just disastrous, which, in some cases for a reset, that might not be bad.
Yeah, and I think this team competes more for a playoff spot because they're in the Pacific Division. I would not be projecting this lineup for a playoff spot if they were in a division like the Metro Division, for example, where there's a lot more strength and depth up top. So, Yeah, I'd say it's a positive day for Sharks fans as a whole. They definitely filled some holes in the lineup, and they can see that Doug Wilson is making moves. He's not just sitting idly by, but I think the next move, if there is a next move, could be the more exciting move.
And that's going to be interesting because you always know Doug's up to something.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. It should be fun to find out what's going on, and if something happens, we'll make sure to bring it to you. So, in case you missed anything, or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Of course, hit us up on the YouTube, please. We appreciate your subscription button pushing immensely. Also, hit that notification bell. That'll recognize that when we do shows like these, we are on the air for sure, bringing you the latest and where the Sharks stand. Also, hit us up audio-wise besides our podcast platforms on SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio. Of course, always available at tealtownusa.com. So with that, we'll bring a close to this here. A lot of people, saying maybe Vladimir Tarasenko, Anthony Sanchez saying maybe they could still get in for Patrick Marleau if that's the case, but I can't see him making the lineup. But we should also mention that Martin Jones, who was bought out yesterday by the Sharks, has signed a 1-year, $2 million deal with the Philadelphia Flyers. So good luck to Joner and Philly. If you thought the fans were getting on you in San Jose, we're bad.
That's what I'm thinking.
Philadelphia,
tough place for a goalie.
Yeah, no kidding. Ever since Hextall and Pelle Lindbergh, it hasn't been exactly the best for sure. So, Mark, thank you very much. I know you got to get back to work, and I got to get moving here. But your final thoughts and where the people can find you.
Final thoughts. It's been a good 7 days for Sharks fans. You should be excited. We added Eklund, and now we added 3 decent players for really good signing amounts and terms. So Doug Wilson's doing his job. Let's continue that on and have a good summer with some more news. You can find me, though, at Mark SJS on the Twitter machine.
Excellent, Mark. Thank you so much. I'm at Puckeye14 on the Twitter and the Instagram. We'll be back with you whenever news breaks. Might be AJ getting the big deal when Eichel comes to San Jose. We'll see how that goes. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate each and every one of you immensely. And until then, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real, teal. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you down the road. Go Sharks!